Okay, and let's see. We want to also uh, do, do, do. Okay, so I've just started the recording and also the AI companion so that we can do that. So it's now 11 minutes after. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, and I declare this meeting of 11 January 2025 to be open. Our topic for today is building on something we announced in the middle of December, namely the idea of using artificial intelligence to build knowledge hubs, research knowledge hubs on all kinds of topics, any topic literally anybody wants to build on. In other words, we'll focus on what are the best tools for research. How do we take advantage of that? How do we collaborate the best on these things? And so forth, to build these knowledge hubs that people will be able to use, whether it's NGOs, research institutes, anybody who wants to get involved, to be able to explore the issues facing our world, whether those are the problems or are trying to understand causes or brainstorm solution ideas, whatever. And because there are tools out there that are available and improving daily to facilitate that. So what we today's meeting is about is to understand what are the basic components of being able to accomplish something like that, create teams, collaboration teams around any topic, do the research, gather up all the information, and so forth. So today we'll be talking about what does that mean, creating these research hubs or knowledge hubs, and we'll be talking about what are examples of the tools that are available out there for us to be able to use, and also talking about examples. What do we mean about the areas, the research areas that people might want to gather knowledge about and analyze and so forth. So that's really the purpose of today, and to kick the ball off and talk about, okay, how do we enable these collaborative teams to get established, and what are the basic tools that we would use so that everybody knows how to get to the shareable information and so forth. So that's the purpose. And I'd like to start off by asking, does anybody want to add anything to the agenda or make any comments about the agenda for today? So please. Yes, Lisa.
Certainly. Well, you were mentioning before the meeting started about Elon Musk. He actually put out a notice yesterday that AI has already supposedly gathered in all the information that we have around the world and is now teaching itself, coming up with information on itself, which, of course, we see as a potential problem because, well, of certain things we have yet to see AI go through. A differentiation between real information and fake information, which is one of the things that we have problems with right now. Um, so when he made that statement, of course, I was like, okay, you've got a system within a system that is teaching itself according to its internal systems. That's a problem.
Yes, no, no. This is something that's a research area. You'll see when I put up examples of what research areas might be out there. That's one of them. What's the risk that AI just basically escapes control of humans and just goes off and turns itself into the super knowledge base of the whole world? And so that's a topic area, because we also have at the beginning of this past week, at CES, the head of NVIDIA announced that they have a new tool out there that will generate synthetic data. Because if we think about the world, the as we've often said, AI is not a question of man versus machine. That we're so far beyond that. It's ridiculous. What it is, it's the knowledge and experiences of individual humans versus the collective recorded knowledge and experiences of millions of humans, or tens of millions of humans. And it's basically not possible for one human to be able to compete on that. But even with all of that knowledge that we have out there, and that's the knowledge of humans, it's being added to because we're adding out there sensors all over the world on that's capturing more information about things. But even with that, we still have huge gaps where we don't have the information, where we don't have the experiences. So what NVIDIA has come up with, if we think of how did the AlphaGo program be established that beat the world champion in the game of Go? What they did is they just turned the AI loose and say, yeah, okay, you play millions of games with yourself. That's no human's able to do that. So, but you can do that, and you're going to gain all that experience just going through all these millions of hypothetical situations on your own. So what NVIDIA came up with is a way that generates all of the hypothetical situations that might occur in different situations and creates little video snippets about all these things that maybe will never happen, but maybe could happen. And then they turn around and they train the AI on all these using all these hypotheticals. So they basically allow the robots and the AI to watch the videos that they've generated about all these things that maybe could happen but might never have happened. And so the AI learns what it would do should that what if situation ever arise. So the era
I
of synthetic data, if you would. So, Huma, I'll come to you, but Joan had her hand up first. So let me go to Joan
Oh,
quickly, and then I'll come to Huma. Yes, Joan.
fine.
Hi everyone. Happy New Year. Um, so my question was along the lines of Lisa Anise. I love the idea of having the research hubs, and my concern always is with the fake news. How does the uh, AI differentiate between real research, things that are real, and things that are been put out there? I mean, I know fake news isn't, it's a quick snippet of what's happening, but a lot of people spend a lot of time convincing the other side, right? Like we see American companies, for example, they'll hire a chemical company to debate and fix the decision. Like, how do we know what's the difference between what's real and what's just out there in the virtual space?
Yeah. I think what's important on this, Joan, is that our role here is not to say what the answers are in these situations, but the idea to say, hey, guess what? That's a research area. How
Mhm.
do we how do we ensure that the information is valid, or what information is valid? Because there could be
Right.
information on every side of the equation. And so how do we know what's true and what's not true? So what's the state of the quality of information? Because we have information that goes all the way back to biblical times and the debates of did somebody really write that, or did somebody later on imagine somebody wrote that? Or,
Mm,
there's
Yeah.
this problem is not new, but the AI is going to give us the capability of understanding to say, what is maybe doing research, what is the percent of incidences of a certain of fake news, if you would, what is the impact of fake news, what it
Mhm.
could be, what it actually is. And the key is for us to be able to bring together all the research, all the knowledge related to a topic like that, and being able to come up with analysis and maybe some
Right.
hypothesis on that, and being able to come up and evaluate what's the likelihood that this hypothesis is correct or that hypothesis is correct, or to be able to say, what information would we need to have in addition to
Mhm.
be able to judge the various hypotheses. So,
And I just want to add that
yep.
we've been experimenting in how powerful AI tool is. So I have to say I'm very excited. So my questions are always around. It is huge. I can't even think of anything else after results of what we did in less than half an hour.
Mhm, mhm.
That's taken me like 25 years to collect information.
Yeah. Yeah, the yes, and this is exactly why this group, why we're saying here, I mean, there's many efforts, there's many collaborations between universities and research institutes and many other groups to try to say, hey, let's try to get our arms around what's going on in various areas. And what we're looking to do is there's many questions and areas out there that are not being such covered. And so you've got some people here that have gathered a little bit of information. Some people here have gathered a little information. We're trying to say here that, hey, let's leverage the tools out there that enable us to create these knowledge hubs and be able to analyze the content, not only us, but leveraging AI and helping to analyze what's going on in these areas there. So that's what we're going to get into today. Huma, you're patiently waiting there. Yes.
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The point is, which is the point of concern for all of us, how to address fake news and what we have to do. Before using any news or anything like that by a company or by a media company or anything else, or from an education sector or the research thesis, we should have proper SOPs, proper policies. If they are there in any organization, whether it was advertising field, marketing field, education field, or they are selling any kind of product, even of toothpaste, if they have AI policy, I think we will be, or we can be able to stop these kind of things.
Mhm.
This is very important. Secondly, when it comes to fake news, have you seen what celebrities are suffering nowadays all over the world? Anyone can tell anything about them, and they are making their avatars and they are making their digital personalities. And I think nobody is paying hindrance to this kind of heed to this kind of point, that they have to have this legal right not to use their picture.
Mhm.
It should be in the laws of every country now. It's high time. And it should be in the laws and the regulations of each and every country, that without the permission of any important political or religious or the celebrity, or these are the people who are working in this industry, they will be penalized if they use their fake news like that. Similarly with the research papers as well, they can have proper SOPs, they can have proper policies. I'm talking about policies. They all should have they should make policies right now.
Mhm.
This is the only solution which I think we can have, or we can curb them. And the same implies on social media, or all handles of social media, the TikTok, Instagram, whatever. So this is the suggestion from my
Yeah,
side.
yeah. I think here to Huma, for us right now, that is another research topic. What can we do, or what should be done to control that, to control the fake news, to control misinformation, and say, okay, are there penalties for that? How
Well,
can that be controlled? There's so many aspects, but again, for us right now, we are not this particular project is not about us telling people, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Right now, we're looking at collecting the information. What's the state on that? We might be able to say, okay, who are the bodies who are advocating for certain positions on or for certain regulatory approaches to things and so forth? What's being done? What could be done? Here. How could AI itself be used to police itself? And one of the issues with when we talk about the accuracy of the information and so forth, a big step in AI right now is for AI to police itself. In other words, we're seeing the latest large language models. They're incorporating this chain of reasoning, if you would. And in the chain of reasoning, one of the steps along the way, and it's usually an iterative step, is to double check. Can we get information that sort of reinforces or confirms the information that it received, so that if we see that, oh, there's valid reasons why that particular part of the information that the AI gathered is not valid, it will either throw it out or it will say, no, I have to research that further, and it will go through another iterative loop. And so we see with the latest large language models, hallucinations and just wrong answers is greatly reduced, not eliminated, but greatly reduced. And these are things we have to look into. But also we have to, do the research as well on what was already mentioned, that Elon Musk mentioned, but he's not the only one, I can assure you.
He's not the only
Yes, I was working myself over 30 years ago on developing software that would write software itself. This is not new stuff.
one. Okay.
But what's happening here is we are seeing breakthroughs. So just in this last week, just literally in this last week, there have been several announcements of experiments where the AI was able to self-improve itself. Okay. And of course, that is a potential huge risk. If the AI starts self-improving itself, potentially we could see 1,000 years worth of AI development take place within one day, but without involvement of humans. And the AI could get so far ahead that we humans are going to look like we have the intelligence of ants,
So
and
it means
AI will just
AI will
ignore
be the
us.
another later on. Like we are Homo sapiens. So this will be the evolution of humans,
Yeah, or
isn't it?
the evolution or the next generation. I mean, there was the
Yes,
Cro-Magnon man, and there was Neanderthals. There's been a lot of Homo erectus,
correct. Homo
You mean
DS.
you mean the devolution of men?
or the devolution. Anyway, but for us right now, the issue is to be able to collect the information and be able to make it available to inform people, to inform ourselves, to be the basis for us to looking at where might all this be going? What's the likelihood that it's going down this path? So we have to be almost like the meteorologists of intelligence, of trying
Hmm.
to project where's the storm going, and how
When
strong is it likely to
when
be?
it comes
Uh,
to education, I think it's doing well. On a serious note, when it comes to the education sector in schools and college level, even in the university level, I think AI is a great help.
yes, I think here. um we have to be very careful here, because there is one of the scenarios that it came up with, and just was some of my partial that actually included the elimination of the education process taking place within 1 to 2 years. So at least the education as we know it. So that's there. I want to invite Elena. Elena, you were so patient. You had your hand up way early on the beginning of this, and I didn't get a chance to get to you. So please, Elena.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's the first time I'm here, so I wanted to ask you really quickly how we're going to work on these topics, because I've never been in this kind of meetings. So I wanted to ask really fast how we're going to work on these topics,
Yes.
if we're
And
just going
and
to talk.
and so that gets us right into our agenda here, because the first part of the agenda was to talk about, well, what do we mean by this? We want to get some teams and we want to collect knowledge and all that. What does that mean? And the idea here is um, that there's a need out there. There's so many people talking about, well, this is going on, that's going to take place. There's not going to be any jobs. People are going to live forever because AI is going to eliminate all diseases and so forth. And there's so much noise out there. What we feel there's a need is to be able to bring together all what the world knows on certain topics, so that we can try to get better ideas, better proposals, better hypotheses, as to where the world's going, how fast is it going, where's it going to take us, and so forth and so on. And to do that, we need to have obviously a place to collect all the knowledge. We have to have methodologies and techniques for finding and collecting the knowledge. And we have to have ways for teams to be able to collaborate in doing that. So there's hundreds or thousands of topics out there that deserve to be put under the spotlight and have the information gathered about them. And different people have different passions. They're interested in maybe this aspect of agriculture, and another one in medicine, and another one in education, so that we want to create an opportunity for people to be able to get involved in a collaborative way of pulling all the knowledge together in those topics that they are interested in. So for that, that creates a challenge for us. Okay, how do we create the teams? How do the teams get organized? And then how do we make it so that we don't just go out there and say, hey, everybody, it's a good idea. Let's collect a lot of information, but that we've got some kind of a structure out there for the information so that when information is gathered, there's some common approaches that people know how to access and use that information. So that's what we want to talk about. So when we get into does that answer, if we can do that, does that answer your question?
Yeah, my question was how we're going to use this information that we're going to gather, how we're going to select them. And we're also talking about AI, so I wanted to ask also why we are collecting all those information. Is it in purpose of using AI with um, to have more knowledge, to be able to um, use the knowledge in the right way, to be able to maybe use those right information that we are going to gather and use it to improve the AI work that we're doing.
Mhm. Um, I think on the one hand, we're looking to use AI as a tool. On another hand, we're looking to have AI be a subject that we're putting under the spotlight so that we better understand what the heck is going on with AI, where's it going, what's it going to be capable of, how's it going to impact society, and so forth and so on. So the idea here is that some of these tools are coming available right now that make it much, much easier to collect and analyze and curate, if you would, good information on various topics. So let me start off with an example. So maybe to make it a little clearer that where we're wanting to go, are you familiar with Notebook LM?
No.
Oh, okay. So here is what Notebook LM is. Notebook LM is basically a place where you can gather knowledge about a topic, and then you're able to basically talk to that corpus, to that collective group or information out there. You're able to talk to that and say, hey, there's here's 50 different documents, YouTube videos, lecture recordings, just notes, brainstorming notes, articles, all this kinds of stuff about this topic. Well, collectively, looking at all that together, can you summarize what do we know about this topic? And Notebook LM will help you summarize that. But it will also do things like give me a briefing doc. Give me a briefing doc of what's going on in this area of quantum physics. I want to know everything about quantum physics. What's really important to know out there? Give me a briefing doc. Or be able to go in and say, give me a study guide. How can I learn everything I need to know, I want to know, that's important about quantum physics? Okay, and it will generate for you a study guide, and including quiz questions and answers and essay suggestions and things like this for you to really understand what's going on with the area of quantum physics. Or you can go in there and ask all kinds of what ifs. Now, how does that differ from what we've got with ChatGPT and with these general chatbots out there? The difference is that the sum of the knowledge that it will look at to answer your questions is limited to that topic, to limited to sources that you have said these are valid sources. These are, if you would, sources that we've checked and we agree are accurate and don't have a lot of fake news and things like that in them. So that's a huge difference, because if you've only got valid sources, how do we get hallucinations? We get hallucinations for two reasons. One is, if I go out in the middle of Times Square in New York City and I just ask the first person that's passing by, how would you remove somebody's appendix? Okay, they might give me an answer, but how likely is that answer to be valid? So out there in the world, there's all kinds of fake news and statements and all kinds of bad information in the world. But if we just looked at all the knowledge of the world, are we getting the bad information or the good information? That we don't necessarily know. But if we can curate out of all that knowledge a corpus, a sum of knowledge that we agree, hey, this is all valid knowledge, maybe from a lot of different perspectives, and maybe disagreeing knowledge, but it's valid. It's based on peer-reviewed academic papers, or it's coming from sources that have been checked, even if it's just checked by the team that's putting the information together. Now, if I ask questions to that, and that's the only place that the AI can answer from, we're getting answers that are based on valid information. So that's the broad concept, is to be able to go and curate sources that we feel are valid sources related to a topic, and then be able to ask all kinds of questions of that, because we have chat mode. We can go in and chat with it. We can discuss with it. We can ask for what ifs type of information, but it can only base its answers on what we have validated as valid sources of knowledge on that topic. So that's the core of it. And we can then create reports. We can say, hey, give me the summary that a 10-year-old's going to understand about that. Generate for me a slide deck, a presentation deck on that. Create a video for me. But it's based on this curated sum of information on the topic. So for us to be able to do that, oh, and by the way, the thing here for Notebook LM, I'm sure some of you have seen it, that the one that's gotten all the hot attention is you can say, create for me a podcast. And literally here, it will go take the information from all of those sources there, synthesize it, summarize it down, and then two people will be chatting back and forth about what's important in all that content.
I have tried that twice,
Yes,
and it's amazing. It
it
worked
is.
well.
But you
Yeah.
have to think here, Huma, is one of the things that we can do now since about a month is that we can now customize. We can say, I want you to create the podcast, but I want you to create it from this perspective, or I want you to emphasize this aspect in the podcast that's being created.
Okay.
And
I
yeah,
created first. I have written the article, and on the basis of article, I put that article in it, and that through that article, the podcast was created between two people. They were talking about my article. They took my name, and then they were discussing about it.
yeah, exactly. And you can go so much further. I demonstrated to
Okay.
the executive director of one of the largest model UN groups here, and I don't know, Elena, have you participated in model UNs? Is that where you know about this from?
Yeah, that's where I talked to you for the first time
Yeah.
at the closing ceremony.
Mhm.
It was April of last year.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, okay. So, Abramo, who's the executive director of the Italian Diplomatic Academy, we were in Washington here in November for Model UN there, and while we're talking here, I said, "Here, do you guys have a website?" And they said, oh, yeah, we have a website. So I said, let me put it in because here's the thing when we're capturing the knowledge, okay, there are papers out there, there are books. You can take an entire book, literally 500-page book, and you can load that as one of just the 50, or the newer version can go up to 300 sources. So I can take entire books, put them in, and it will summarize all those books. And then they will talk about what's important in the knowledge in those books.
Mm.
But anyway, in this case, you can put in the books, you can put in YouTube videos. So you can literally put in a YouTube
Yes,
video and then have these create a podcast of these two people discussing the YouTube video. And now, what's the newest thing on this
you can.
is you can interrupt them and say, "Oh, excuse me, but what did you just say about this or that? And are you going to talk about this in your podcast?" So imagine that we've got an AI, they created a audio recording. And now I'm talking to the host
That's
of that audio recording, and they're answering me and giving me meaningful answers to my questions. Imagine where that's going to go in a couple of months.
big. That's big.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, so that's the kinds of things that we're talking about. So, but here's the thing. So we've got these places, repositories, where we can collect up all the sources, YouTube's, websites. Oh, yeah, I was explaining here for the Italian Diplomatic Academy. He says, yeah, we got a website. So I said, give me it. I put the website in, just the one website. That's all I put in to the Notebook LM. And then I said, okay, can you tell me, summarize this, tell me what you can glean out of that website. I went through all the website, all the pages, and it came back and made a 12-minute discussion of the website. So then I went and said, oh, yeah, okay, that's good, but forget that, delete that. Now here, I want you to critique the website. How effective is that website in getting across its message? And how could I make the website better? And now it came back and it had a discussion about the strengths and weaknesses of the website and how you could make it better. Guess what? You could do the same thing with an academic paper you're writing or an essay. You can go and put that in there and then ask them to do a podcast where they discuss the strengths and the weaknesses of the paper and how the paper could be made more effective. So imagine here the potentials of what we've got now and being able to go into where we glean out of it. We ask it to summarize this knowledge, summary of all this knowledge that we've got there on a topic, and it does that. And then we come back out and we load that summary that it just gave us back into it and say, okay, can you tell me here what's missing on the information that might be useful to know relative to this topic based on your own summary of it? And it will come back and analyze what other information would be useful to be able to get more meaningful answers out of that. So do we see, can you start to see the potentials that we might be able to come up with there? Abdul, please.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Pleasure to be here and really enjoying the discussion. So I'm participating from UK. Um, I mean, the most important aspect, the time that we are living in, like we know the strength and ability of the AI and how it is changing the way we do things and the way we just come as an outcome. Where gone were the days we took longer to get to some outcome, but now with the help of these tools and with these luxuries, we can collect all those things and analyze it and come up to the conclusion to some extent. Um, uh, so so there will be consequences for all of these. Um, for the human societies. One biggest aspect is uh, unemployment in the society and how this is going to be dealt throughout the world. And the second thing is the ethics and morality and the biasness of the AI used for the different objectives to be achieved for certain reasons based on to the individuals, how they could invest in these technology as individual having a trillions, and how they can just make the power of this and what kind of things that they can achieve at. I mean, on this platform, so it would be good to identify some short-term, long-term, and mid-term kind of objectives, making use of the AI, where we can identify channels or teams or individuals who could work on these things. And then at the end of the day, we want to use all these luxury for the quality of the human and society. We want to benefit the countries or people who are deprived of the quality of life or the means, so we want to benefit them. So some humble thoughts. So
Yeah. No, yes. Well, I think here, all of this starts off with information. If I come out to you and say, well, you know what, in a year from now, nobody's going to have any jobs. So there's not going to be any money paid into Social Security systems anymore. So the government can't pay Social Security for anybody. So all the people who are living on Social Security, they're just out of luck. Or now for that, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, come on, you're crazy. What do you mean there's not going to be any jobs? Sure, there's going to be. That not everybody's going to adopt this. It's not going to go that fast. And by the way, AI can't do a lot of things. It doesn't have the empathy. It doesn't have the emotional intelligence. And there's so many things it can't do, and humans are going to be able to do that. Oh, and by the way, every time technology has come and displaced a lot of human workers, there's new jobs that are created, and those new jobs are going to provide more opportunities, employment opportunities that are going to be displaced. So we have all these statements that are being made out there in the air. And what's true? Is it likely that new jobs are going to be created that people will be able to do, or is it likely that there will be certain functions that AI can do, that humans can do that AI can't do? So humans will be protected in those jobs. Is it likely that the jobs are going to be displaced at all in the first place, or maybe AI, it makes so many mistakes and so forth, we can't trust it, so we're not going to do that. So what of those statements are true and which ones are likely? So the first thing we need to do is to have a way to treat those, if you would, as hypotheses, and be able to gather the information so that we can make informed judgments. Do we believe that? Do we believe there's going to be new jobs being created and the humans are going to be able to do that? Oh, and by the way, the AIs are not going to be able to do the new jobs? Or what's the likelihood that the AI is going to have learned to do the new job before the human ever even gets a chance to try? Or what's the likelihood of that AI, oh, it can't do the empathy? So I guess all those studies out there that they've been doing that are showing that people feel AI is more empathetic than the humans are. In the field of medicine, for example, they've done a number of tests on whether human doctors or AI doctors are viewed as the recipients of the empathy as being more empathetic. So we need to collect the knowledge so that we can make informed statements or be able to make judgments about these various claims and statements that are being made out there. So, okay, Geeta, yes, please.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning,
Morning.
everyone. I'm from participating from North Carolina in the U.S. here. Bill, I was just wondering if you've already put some thought, or if it's something that you'd like us to curate later. As far as having a receptacle to put all of this knowledge here for us to work in our work group areas. Are we looking to do this for something like, are we going to leverage Notebook LLM with another concept as you did in the developer knowledge base that we worked on, because those had some neat features, or will we look to develop using an AI tool, something like that, in a collaborative mode with an LLM model, the notebook. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll be sending out a Google form here shortly for people to put in the information about what are the knowledge areas they would like to participate in collecting and curating the information about, or exploring. Because once we put information in there, obviously, you want to explore it. You want to ask questions and bring out nuances and turn it into additional useful information. So we'll start off with putting out collecting, if you would, the what are the research areas that we want to research on. We'll also put information out there as to what's the initial tool set that we want to use to get started. And I say that because I don't know what the best tools are going to be even 2 months from now. It's changing so fast. But we need to get started. So to get started, we have to have areas of focus, and we've got to be able to start collecting up the information. Now, not all of you, is shown, not all of you are familiar with um, Notebook LM. So I just want to do a very quick demonstration here. So all of you, can you see here what I've got? This is what Notebook LM looks like. Notebook LM is free. You just go to notebooklm.google.com and you can start. And it just says, oh, I want to create a new book. Well, before doing that, I'm going to go into one I've already created. So I'm going to go into this. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going into this coming wave technology risk. Mustafa Suleiman, the head of AI for Microsoft, wrote a book towards the end, a little over a year ago. So this is his book. So I go into that and we have a source here, and the source is his book. If I click on this, I can see literally the summary of his book, and then I could go and drill down into any aspect here. If I want to drill into the technology wave aspect of that, it will come back in and it will give me a whole bunch of information here on what technology waves are and what the gist of the book is with regards to that. And I can save this to become a note, for example, or whatever. So I'm able to put the book in, and I could literally drill into this and get the whole text of the book if I wanted. Or I can come over here and I come into this chat mode here, and I can see that I can just start talking to it, and I can say something like, "What is the first page where uh, Chat GPT is mentioned?" Okay, so it will come back and it says, hey, the first place it was mentioned is on page 65. And it introduces and it says, what does it say about that? And I can literally go and click in, and this is pulled right out of the text. So you can ask any question about this book and literally go in and see the quote and where it is that this is being mentioned. And of course, I just asked a stupid question about what pages show up, but you could say, okay, what pages have really critical things about the implementation of a universal basic income? And actually, that might be a thing. Does this book make any reference to UBI? Okay. So here we can see, yeah, it does. It goes into the context and so forth. And again, it's a potential response to massive job displacement, and it brings in exactly where is the reference to universal basic income from the index. It will bring in other where information to each piece that it shows. It'll dig into exactly what is going on. And here we get a whole bunch of to the book itself. These are reviewers, Yuval Harari, that you may be familiar with, Professor. All these different places. Al Gore, a former Vice President of the United States. All these people that are making comments on the book. So anyway, these are a couple of things about that. So we see we can talk to this whole book here. Now, another thing I want to do is we have all these notes. You notice over here, I'd like a study guide on this. So I think I may have already asked this. So I created a study guide, and what it does, it has the quiz questions, has the answer keys to the questions. It has essays that you want to consider, it has a glossary of all the terminology that are in this book. So that it does that. Now, in addition to that, I had talked about, and I could get a briefing documentation. I could get a frequently asked question here. Um, okay, so here's getting into, this is the frequently asked questions, all things that are relevant to this book, the frequently asked questions that people would typically ask. And then the thing that was referenced to, this idea of that we get a podcast literally talking about what this book, and it created a podcast of more than 22
All right,
minutes.
let's dive into this book you sent over, The Coming Wave,
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting one.
by Mustafa Suleiman and
Right.
Michael Bhaskar.
And, I think this one is particularly relevant to what we talk about on the show.
Well, I know the basics, but
So synthetic biology, it's really all about
yeah.
rewriting the code of life,
Mhm.
right? Imagine you have a 3D printer, but instead of plastic,
Okay.
it prints DNA,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we're talking about with DNA synthesizers.
Oh, wow.
These machines that can,
So you can manufacture
Yeah.
biological material on demand.
Okay, so that's one example. Now, if I go into this interactive mode on this, down here, I start again.
All right, let's dive into this book you send over, The Coming Wave,
yeah, it's a really, really interesting one.
by Mustafa Suleiman and
Right.
Michael Bhaskar.
And, I think this one is particularly relevant to what we talk about on the show a lot, right? It's all about, well,
Yeah.
Okay.
hey there,
Hi.
share your thoughts on this?
Yes, I have a question here. Are you going to talk about synthetic biology?
That's a great question, and the answer is a definite yes.
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about synthetic biology quite a bit.
It's actually one of the two core technologies that this book focuses on.
Yeah, along with AI, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
So we'll be exploring what it is, how it works,
Yeah.
and what it means for our future.
Okay, so yeah, we're definitely going to unpack that.
And it's a big part of the coming wave, so you're right to ask about it.
So, with that said, let's get back to it.
So as we were saying, the authors are really focused on the potential unintended consequences.
Right.
Okay, so thoughts to this. Let me go and close my stop the share on that.
Well, I have a quick question, Bill.
Yes.
Say, for example, I'm really interested in learning this. So, there's a book that was written by the UN FAO, the Food and Administration Organization, and I have the book. So after we were sort of interacting the other day, I went to look. I have the book downloaded, but I thought, I wonder if they updated the book. And they had. So does note would there be any reference to an update or just they're reading the book?
If they published a new edition,
Yeah.
then you might be able to go out there and search for the new edition. So
So
you
what they did with the new edition, they didn't create a new edition. What they did was created a framework
okay.
instead of a book.
So very often what you find is you find a book. Now we get into the whole second aspect of this. But before I do that, I want to ask here on thoughts on what we just saw. What were your thoughts? So Abdul, you had your hand up before. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting and sky is the limit. So it is just the beginning and very useful and meaningful and can be a great assistant for us, the work that you are focusing on. Once we identify the potential area of the subjects of where we want to work on, so we can then start bringing in all those sources and creating a notebook for all of them, and then trying to summarize and analyze, and then getting intelligence out of that in a very limited time. And it could be a really great source to achieve that in a very limited time and get an objectives that we want to achieve, which were previously very, very difficult. And first and most, like, okay, I want to read this book. What is the summary about? What are the key areas? And then I can ask a question. And if this area of interest, I have it. So because within that, so it has got integration of the LLM within the notebook where you can start a question, that is a prompt engineering in that. And then all that audio podcast is basically making use of the LLM and creating and reading through that book and making use of something. And then all the other aspects, study guide and all those things. So those can be very, very powerful tool where you have a very short-term objectives to achieve certain things for set target groups. So yeah, very impressive. And can be used to an extent the work that you are carrying out, but it will be most important like how quickly we can identify those potential area of research where we, and the most important thing will be also like the sources which can be input for this to generate something for us, which can be really give setting up our direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I just reopened my share because I wanted to show you. I just showed you the example with one piece of information. Here is an example where I've got all kinds of sources that you can see here. And if I clicked and said, "Oh, we found another source out there," and we're going to get in a minute to talk about how do we find the sources? Where do we find quality sources to bring? But assuming we found some quality sources, I now come over here and I say, "Oh, I got these sources." You can now upload, you can drag or drop anything, PDF, text, markdown, audio examples. I can come down here and I can load in any Google Docs, any Google Slides, any websites. I can put in a website. I can go here to a YouTube. I can take and copy and cut and paste any information that I want that I can add to the list of sources. Now here, because I can come in and ask any question, when I ask a question and it goes into that total sum of the knowledge and it synthesizes and summarizes an answer back to me. And
And
that
it is
could
not
be,
free.
pardon?
Is
It is
Google is
free.
not no, no, Google is not free. You're giving all of that sources to train Note LM,
No, no,
and
no,
they are
no. Yeah,
just
yeah,
give
but Notebook LM is free.
It's free.
no, 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 no. I mean, I'm saying it is free. I agree with that. But the sources that you are giving, it is storing and making use for it, and it
Yeah.
is training as model. So we are paying indirectly to this. That's fine. I'm just saying like this is indirectly we are paying it.
Yes. Well,
Indirectly.
there
Bill,
there should be
I
more.
need to add something. I need to add something.
Okay.
Like this person has given very valid and very well explained things about this notebook LM. My point is, whatever we are doing or going to, playing with notebook LM, and whatever the benefits we are getting from it, immediately or in the long run, the main objective we are able to get is to make research
Yes.
easier for the people who are suffering of not doing PhDs, for the people who are suffering of not doing their MS or MPhil. Right now it is actually challenging the status quo of PhDs. That
Oh,
was the most important thing,
yeah.
because since so many decades, please forgive me if I'm talking about like that, but since so many decades, the point is research have become so difficult that people are actually going through emotional traumas, and were unable to address social emotional well-being of these PhD students. Now notebook LM and apps like it and softwares like that can easily address all these things, and now you can do research without having a degree of a PhD, or if you want to do a degree of a PhD, you can do it in days, which you had to do in years. So
This
I
is
think that
why,
is the best
yeah,
part of
Yeah.
this
yes.
notebook LM.
Yeah. Now, this is why here back in December, if you recall, one of our meetings that we had, one of the things I talked about was being able to say, hey, you can do a master's degree instead of taking here a year to a year and a half or even 2 years. You can do a master's degree now in 3 to 4 months with
Yes,
these tools. Because if somebody else has gone out there, a group of professors went out there, and on every one of the subjects that you need to master for a master's degree in quantum physics or whatever, and they say, well, you've got to take 20 courses. You got to master the content of 20 courses to qualify for your master's degree. If somebody had created a notebook for each of those 20 courses, you would be
mm,
able to learn that content in a very, very short time because
yeah,
you're able to interact. And literally, the question you can ask is, well, what's the most important information I need to know about this subject to be able
Yeah.
to qualify as having mastered this content? And it
Yeah.
will tell you exactly what it is that you have to master. And you can even ask it to break it down and give you a learning sequence, a learning plan of how to learn the sum of the content. So you can take the 20
exactly. And
top.
Bill,
Yeah.
why I'm saying that, because when being a principal or being a director of a campus of a university, it was so terrible whenever I used to I have to hire a PhD, and the class was continuously complaining that the people who are not have done their PhD, they are teaching them so well, and the people who have done PhD, they are unable to communicate to the students because they were not coming down to their level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That is
sky is
very
the limit.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see a very good usage of this for imparting the
Yes,
education, where for the children or the third world countries, where we can spin it up all those useful things for them, where all the study guide will be created, quizzes, answers,
true.
and because Google own YouTube and other big data, so they can bringing in related YouTube videos for this topic and all the other relevant Google scholarly kind of things here as well for the audience they want to target it. So then this could be like a one source or one pair of glass where they can know about the subjects in and out with a very limited assistance, and the person can be mastered within a short period of time. So it's
Yes. And
interesting.
True.
and we can expect this is going to merge. There's a technology in Japan. There's a thing called an AI scientist. And what that
Okay.
does is you can give it a subject area, and it will go into that subject area and it will formulate hypotheses about all the information that is questionable or not known. So if we think if you're wanting to be a PhD student, you've got to discover something new. You've got to contribute something to the field of knowledge that you're getting your PhD in. So you can then use this to collect the knowledge, or if it's already been curated out there, you've got your knowledge base on a particular subject area, and you can use a tool like this Scientist AI to go in and say, go through that body of knowledge out there and tell me all the things that we'd like to know that we don't know. And so that then I can pick out of that a particular area of unknowns and then focus the discussion. I can now drill down into a specialty area of that particular aspect of the subject, and I can have it help me develop my thesis, my hypotheses, my thesis, and so forth for my PhD. And this is why we say PhD can go from being 5 to 6 years typically down to being 5 to 6 months, and you're contributing just as valuable new information to the world as if you spent the 5 to 6 years going to physical libraries and interviewing people and so forth. I want to bring out
Yeah,
one thing because
yeah,
Abdul pointed this
yeah,
out.
yeah, please.
We are talking here about us building teams that will collect all the knowledge about a particular subject area. But imagine here that we offered this to teachers and we said, okay, here's the list of all the subjects that are typically taught in schools. And groups of teachers got together and collected the knowledge base for each of those subjects like this. So we had now a notebook for every subject that's taught in school. Now a 10-year-old going in and saying, I have the opportunity to talk, not to a book, to talk to the sum of all the textbooks that are used teaching basic algebra. And I can ask, well, why do I need to know this? What's the value of knowing that? And so forth. So the potential here, especially if we're looking at disadvantaged communities where maybe every community can't hire the best human teacher to be able to go in there. You have this ability with the possibility of interacting with those hosts. You think of those hosts as the teachers, that you can now communicate and talk to the teacher and say, well, why is this important? Is this a valuable piece of information? And what do I need to know on that? Elena, what do you think about that? I'm the fact that you were in the Model UN, I'm imagining you are still in school. So what is your sense of how this might impact if you had, for every subject you're taking in school, if you had such a notebook available to you for that subject that you could now interact with, ask it all kinds of questions, and so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
Indeed, I was thinking about one specific homework that one of my teachers asked me to do, which is reading a book, a particular book which is quite old and difficult to understand. So I think this kind of tools could be really, really helpful to help me find better words to interpret what inside of this kind of book. But I also think that in general, any kind of any topic, any project could be much easier using this kind of tools. Indeed, finding any kind of information, being able to summarize maybe a really, really long book. Indeed, maybe I have a really short time to do a work, and using this tool could be really, really helpful to reduce the time that I need to find those important information that I need to do the work.
Yes, and it could change because I think it changes the attitude for the student. The student now can learn at their own pace. We saw with the study guide aspect of how long it would take. By the way, here's another one. I'm very interested in the books of Yuval Harari. One of his first books was *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind*. This is one of the most famous authors of the last decade or so. And he wrote actually two books related to this, or one's a book and the other might be something else. So here, this is, yes,
You're talking about Yuval Noah Harari?
yes,
Oh, he's an amazing author.
yes. So here, if you take a look, here's all the information about
Mm.
his book. Here's
Yes.
a summary. Here you can look into all the different aspects of his book. And
He also ahead of time,
yeah. So now let's just say you wanted to study this book, okay? You wanted
History of
to
Homo. Okay.
really understand it. So I'm just coming over here. I'm just clicking on this study guide. We're seeing this in real time, okay? So hopefully it's not gonna. Okay, take a look. Here it is. So we now have this whole brief breakdown here of quizzes, short answer quizzes, and what the answers would be, some essays that you might want to consider, and all the terms that he used in his book. Just that took what, 30 seconds or so? When we get into the
Well,
podcast.
today, we're tackling a question that's been buzzing around. Is all this competition really necessary? That whole hustle harder, be the best mantra. We're going back to humanity's roots to see how competition shaped us and maybe even challenge the assumption that it's inherently a bad thing.
That's what's so intriguing. While collaboration is getting all the praise these days, competition has been this underlying force, driving evolution and innovation for millennia. Let's rewind back to our early ancestors. It's a more nuanced story than you might think.
Okay, so you can get a sense how quickly here we just did that. And up at the top of my screen, you can see here, you can get into analytics on this, you can get into share, you can do settings. When we go into a subject area here. Oh, by the way, Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy, wrote a book called The One World Schoolhouse. Here it is. Here's all the details. You can learn about mastery learning, active learning, the broken model, what's wrong, how to redesign the classrooms, how to create a free world-class education. We can do the elimination of the school calendar. Now, this was me. I went in there and I asked, did he say in the book that we can get rid of the school calendar, because if every student is working at their own pace, you can do it just like a business and say, hey, student, you can take your vacation when you want. If your family says, I want to go to the Southern Hemisphere, the Northern Hemisphere, and it's on a different time scale, take vacation when you want, because when you come back, you pick up where you left off. And so we can do this. So I asked this. And here's the answer that was pulled out of his book on how he believed about that. And then I can turn around and I can turn these notes, I can turn them back into a source. So literally, I can basically ask questions about the answers that it came up to. So this is an example. Now I told you about one other, and I just want to go down to that. By the way,
I mean,
here, my daughter was
yeah,
talking about taking a motorcycle tour from Cape Town to Victoria Falls. And I was literally able to go out there and find information about that, bring it together, create a knowledge base about everything about taking a motorcycle tour from Cape Town to Victoria Falls that she could actually talk to and interact with.
yeah. This is gonna create big time of disturbance into the traditional systems, whatever is currently running.
So I'm looking for a thing here called IDA. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this was a case here. The source that I put in for this is a website. Okay, it's I just put in a website, and then I created over here on the information. I there's a thing called customization. Down here, when you can say generate for me a podcast, you're able to also go in and give it instructions. And so I gave instructions here and say, hey, the source that I gave you was this website. And so would you please critique the
Right. So
website?
today we're going to be doing something kind of different.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a website
Okay.
and we're going to kind of critique it and give some constructive feedback.
Like a website audit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the website we're looking at is the Italian Diplomatic Academy.
The IDA.
Yeah. And we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of, how effective is it at communicating its mission?
Okay.
How effective is it at, attracting potential students and partners and informing the public?
Yeah, it's their digital front door.
Exactly.
Okay.
So first impressions.
Yeah.
When you land on the homepage, the first thing you see is this big, bold Iskra Videora.
Okay, so I just wanted to give that impression, and
I mean, yeah, it is great to see all that great potential of Notebook LM. So ideally, would you be able to tell us, how we going to move forward with this, or
yes, that's what we're going to come to in a minute. I just wanted to see so you can see the potentials on this. This is a paper that I wrote. I did a brain dump on whether how AI companions are going to be a transformative power of everyday AI. And here's the summary of my paper. I can drill in and actually see. Here's the text of my paper that I actually wrote together with ChatGPT. I just need to save what I did here. Because what I want to do to show you, so I'm just downloading that. By the way, one of the frustrating things, these podcasts are created in a wave format. So what you have to do is then you've got to convert it over to an MP3 in many cases when you want to share it. Okay, so this is to create that audio overview here. Literally, I just come in here and I could just click generate. I don't tell it anything. I say just generate a podcast for me. It takes one click. That's all. But I also have that capability to come in here and I can say, okay, I want you to focus, we can have 50 sources or we can have 300 sources if we have the paid version. And so I can say, I want you to focus on a particular source, so not all the 50. I want you to focus on source 37. And just kind of focus on one chapter maybe in that book, or focus on it as a specific topic, or coming from a certain perspective. I want you to look at it from this perspective, or I want you to exclude anything related to that. So you can do that. So what I was able to do in this particular case was, instead of for the Italian Diplomatic Academy, instead of just saying generate and let it pull it out from the website, it would just generate a summary or a discussion of the content of the website. I told it, no, I want you to do that critique and give me suggestions. So that was what I wanted to do there. And then to look here, how do I create this? Literally come up here and you just create new and says, hey, what sources? Put in some sources and it will create a notebook for you. Okay. So Joan, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated. So you can keep talking. It's fine, but we need to. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to say. As you know, I want to create the Victory Garden Institute, and so I want to learn how to do the notebook. Like I said, I have literally thousands of documents that I have gone through that I love, right? So now that I have to go through and pick out quotes and relevance and stuff. So does the notebook LM quote the sources, or do I have to do that manually?
No, to find the sources you're going to use.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to get into that in just a
Okay.
minute.
Because I'm very sensitive to making sure that people know this is where you can go to for more
Right,
information.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But before we do that, because the question is, okay, how do you learn how to use that tool, for example? I want to show you something new. What's so mind-boggling is all the stuff we're talking about. So much of what we're talking about is less than a month old. It's happening that fast. So I'm going to
Wouldn't it be amazing?
hold on, I gotta share my screen. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so what we're gonna watch this, it's only 3 minutes. Okay, everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could have an expert sitting right next to you anytime you want to learn some new
Oh,
software?
sorry.
You can ask questions, get instant answers, and simply learn by doing.
Okay, hold on a minute. I gotta stop sharing this one. And you gotta get over to this. Okay. So hopefully this,
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could have an expert sitting
could you hear that?
Yeah, we can hear that. Yeah.
next to you anytime you want to learn some new software? Someone you can ask questions, get instant answers, and simply learn by doing. Well, now you can. And the best part, it doesn't cost anything. Basically, you don't need me anymore. Although I like to think that we had a good thing going. Let's dive in. To get started, head to the Google AI Studio website and then sign in with your Google account. If you've never heard of Google AI Studio before, it's primarily designed as a development platform where you can create, train, and deploy custom AI solutions that use Google AI technologies. Now, you might be thinking, you don't do that. But as a user, you can still experiment with the tech, and that's what we're going to do. Feel free to follow along. Hi, I'm in PowerPoint and I'm pulling together a presentation. Can you see this slide on my screen?
Yes, I can see your PowerPoint slide. It's titled Future Plans and mentions opening 100 more retail locations for the Kevin Cookie Company next year. Is there anything specific you'd like to discuss about it?
Yeah, we're a fast-growing company. We're opening up a lot of locations. The one thing is I look at this slide here and it doesn't feel that inspiring. I feel like I could make this better. Any recommendations?
Okay, you feel the future plan slide could be more inspiring, and you're looking for recommendations. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right, one way to make this slide more inspiring could be to add some visuals. Perhaps a map showing where these 100 new locations might be. Or maybe a collage of images showcasing happy customers enjoying the cookies. What do you think about these suggestions?
Yeah, that's a good idea. How would I insert a map in here?
To insert a map, you could use the Insert tab in PowerPoint. Then select Pictures or Online Pictures to find a map image. Alternatively,
Okay,
you
hold
could
on a
use the
second. I'm here in online pictures. What should I search for?
Since you're talking about new retail locations, you could search for a map of the region or country you plan to expand in. Alternatively, if you
Well,
want to focus on,
just to jump in here, we're planning on opening stores throughout the world. So maybe I just type in map of world.
okay, a map of the world sounds good given your plans. Do you want to search for a specific type of map, like a political map or a physical map, or just any
Yeah,
map of the world?
what do you think of these options? Which one do you think would work well?
Out of the options shown, the one in the top left corner and the one in the top middle seem like good choices. They both have a clear and easy to read design, and they show all the countries of the world. Would you like to try one of those?
Yeah, let me try this. Let's try inserting that on the slide. Okay. Ooh, that's big.
Yes, the map is quite large. You can resize it by clicking and dragging the corners or edges of the image. Would you like me to walk you through that, or do you have any other ideas for the slide?
No, I think I'm good. This tech is a fantastic example of the positive benefits of AI. You can now learn at your own pace, on your own terms.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on that? That you can take literally anything, a website, a tool like a PowerPoint, a document creator, and you can have an AI looking over your shoulder and walking you through the process of using that tool, of developing whatever it is you want to develop, not just telling you here, and I skipped over all the points where it says, is this the button I'm supposed to click on? No, it's the one to the left of that, or things like that. In other words, it literally knows what you're doing and what you're working on, and it can advise you on how to more effectively interact with the tool, but more importantly, more effectively achieve what you're trying to achieve. So, comments on that. We'll start off with Joan.
Well, it's made for me, uh, who is not a techie. So the whole idea that you envision something and you just need that little bit of help. That's what it's saying, and it's here for you. I just think all this stuff is very powerful because, like, I know how to do presentations, but you're so concentrate on content generation sometimes that I'm a visual learner, so I love the idea of having visual. But someone suggesting on the sly when you're creating what you can do to make something better. Because typically for me, what I do is I create the content and sometimes I put some visuals and stuff, but then I go back and edit because they say editing is 90% of writing, right? So you go back and say, oh, okay, was it this really focus on what I want to do, the visual, etc. So I think that would really speed up somebody's work in terms of, I mean, I'm focused on community education because I like practical applications because I'm not saying other stuff academic doesn't work. It's too abstract for me personally. So I like to do and learn and by mistake and by success. And but creating content for others and having someone helping you. What is the name of that program?
That's just basically AI Studio.
AI Studio.
It's just Google Gemini basically, and
Wow.
but it has so much more. That is a tiny, tiny little piece, and believe it or not, you can create what you just saw there. It would, other than the time that you're actually talking with it and it's advising
Mhm.
you to set that up to do it, it should take you maybe 2 minutes. Uh,
Wow.
so now the thing about it is okay, that show there, but you know what? You could have that thing explaining to you how to use that tool, that very tool that you just saw. It could be walking you through how do I create a video tutorial on showing people how to use this or use that. You can use it to say, I'm building a website. I have a website development tool here for WordPress, and I'm trying to build this tool with that. Um, Walk me through how do I make my website? How do I what's the best approaches? So it can walk you
Wow.
through that. But it can walk you through here and say, I'm trying to understand this textbook, or I'm trying to understand this website that explains
Mhm.
this subject I'm trying to learn to prepare for a test, or I'm trying to write a guide to help students prepare for a test. And literally it will advise you on every detail. I need to create an outline for a paper I'm writing, and it can show you how do you do that. Now, there's
Years ago, there was a program called Compel. Do you remember Compel? It
no,
was
I'm
around for
not
30
familiar.
seconds. It was around for 30 seconds. It was one of the most amazing software ever. And that was 35 years ago I used it.
Mhm.
And Microsoft bought it and killed it. Um,
That's
yeah.
all
Yeah, and that's 30 years ago. It was almost similar to this, where it would make your presentations, Microsoft presentations, because you had to be certified in those days, right? Mouse, I think it was Microsoft User Specialist or something. But to Compel really made your presentations over the top, and Microsoft killed it. And so, but people loved, I did a whole bunch of them,
Yeah.
and people loved it because it was that visual that made not just made the content come alive. And that's what I'm looking for, is making content come alive. And that takes time, but if you know, and being creative. So if you have something, someone, some support to help you do that quickly. So how, I guess I'm not a techie, right? So how do you use Notebook LM?
I'm going to provide to everybody some links to some YouTube tutorials
Okay.
on how to
Okay.
use this.
Yeah.
And
Notebook LM can bring content alive.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
can bring content alive.
But
Yeah.
now we have a couple of other important tools that we need to be talking about. There are a lot of times here when some of you may be familiar with what's called the Feynman technique. That's a learning technique where you learn by trying to explain something to others. And there are tools out there now, including here. You can go to Google Docs. If you've got Google Docs and if you've got Gemini enabled, you're going to see off on the right-hand side of the Google Docs, it will say, "Oh, can I help you write something?" And you can ask it. It'll generate an outline. It will generate a summary introduction paragraph that is introducing whatever you're writing about. And it will literally walk you through this. Now,
What
there
is
are
it
other
called?
versions. There's from Anthropic. They're a spin-off of OpenAI, the ChatGPT people. And they have a product called Claude. And they've added a thing called artifacts. And with artifacts, it will help you write a paper. But I'm going to describe a related product from ChatGPT, which is called Canvas. So when you go into ChatGPT and you select which model, do you want to use O1? Do you want to use 4.0? There's one that's called 4.0 with Canvas. And if you do that, it's going to split your screen. And on the right hand of the screen, it's going to show the document you're working on. On the left hand of the screen, you talk to the ChatGPT. And so you can start with nothing and have it create something, or you can say, here's some brain dumps that I did. And you can load that in and say, open Canvas. And you'll see on the one hand side, it'll have your document. And you can literally just tell it, can you organize all the different thoughts that I had there into a meaningful document structure? And then boom, it will organize it all. And you might look at it and say, oh, yeah, well, that's okay. But this one sentence, I like this wording. You can now, it's not just if you go into a chat bot and you say, oh, I don't like it, it will redo the whole thing.
Right.
And that's very frustrating. And you can't edit it. So you can only ask it to redo it all. Now you can go in with Canvas. You can literally go in like any word processor and you can edit any text that you want in any of those things. But if you go to the upper right-hand side of any document, it'll open a little box. And if you click on that box, it will make the focus that when you're talking to ChatGPT, now you're only talking about that one paragraph. So if you say, could you please modify this to emphasize that more or emphasize this less, or add some justification to that statement, it will do that within that one paragraph. Or you can go over into that left-hand side and say, can you rewrite this whole thing give it a more friendly tone, or give it a more academic tone, or whatever, or business-like tone. It will do that. So whatever you want to do, it will do it to this document that you're looking at. On the bottom right-hand side, maybe I don't know, can I think yes. I think I can share ChatGPT. Okay, so
So the canvas you have to pay for, right?
it may only be available in the paid version. No, wait a minute. I think I saw that they've now made that available to anybody.
Okay.
So yes,
When you first
I'm
mentioned it,
seeing.
I went to it and it was a paid. It
Okay,
was
yeah, but
paid.
they change these things continually. The very
Okay.
fact that I'm now in ChatGPT 4.0, and you'll see here, I don't get to. It doesn't have the pick for that. So when I come over here, although you're right, it still doesn't say it's not, but I can open. Okay, so here you see I split my screen, and I can say write a short paper on why there is such a an education. So I said, write a short paper on why there's such a discrepancy in education outcomes in U.S. primary schools.
You said UN there.
Oh. Hmm. Okay. And on this side here, you can see so it wrote these answers to this. Now over here, you can see if I go over it, highlighted just that paragraph, and then I can come in and I can edit or explain, or I can come in and literally edit as I would any word processor. Oh, okay. It was rewriting my paper here. Now
Adding the US part.
yes. So here it's been edited to focus on primary and the US. So and then here I have options. I can adjust the length. So I can say here that keep the current length, or I can say make it longer, or I can say make it shorter. So if I say make it shorter, it rewrites that entire paper, but in a more concise version here. Then I can come in also and say the reading level. And so I can keep the current reading level. I can go to high school, college level, graduate school, or I can go to middle school level or kindergarten level. So let's say I want to go to middle school level. It'll rewrite the paper suitable for a middle school reader. And okay, then I hear adjusting the length again. I go back to that little bit longer version to show you the next thing. And it's why is this important to what we're talking about? Because we gather up all the information, we ask it questions, and it generated for us some content. And on that content, we want to be able to explain it. So very often we're able to take that content, bring it on over into ChatGPT with Canvas, or into Claude with Artifacts, or into the newer tools with Google, and it will create for us a new document, which we can now bring back over as a new source, because if it's added some new inferences or understanding. By the way, we can then make a final polish to this. We can say, yeah, okay, we like it, but it doesn't look so pretty. So I just click on this thing here, and it turns it into a more traditional looking report. Okay, now in addition to doing this, by the way, I can tell this thing to write me a computer program. Write me a computer program that is going to quiz users about quantum physics. And it will write a computer program that will do that. Which you can now add to, we take the study guide. We say, hey, based on that study guide from Notebook LM, write me a computer program that insert a computer program into a website that will interactively quiz students on that. So
And
we're
you can
getting
just tell it to do that, or do you have to take this information and put it into Notebook LM?
No, you would have to take the information, the study
Yeah.
guide from Notebook LM, and you
Right,
cut and
and do the
paste it
same
and
thing.
drop it into over here, have it create a program, and then say something like,
They're going
right,
to probably integrate them. I have a quick question for you. I understand this part of it. You're asking it to do something. Can you know, when you, at least when I have my chat GBT, I ask it to write something, and there's a list of the documents. Can you click on a document and ask it to improve it or edit it, or is it this Canvas is just for give it
no,
instructions?
no. That's a perfect use. Take a document, drop it into Canvas here, into here, or into Claude. Claude is considered to be a little bit better normally at writing, but if it's got to be inferring from the general knowledge base of the world, inferring information to use to improve the document, I like ChatGPT better. But otherwise, Claude is considered to be better at communicating, better at being able to make the tone to be the one you want. Just
Okay.
1 second here. Write a website to present the info in this document. I've never tried this, so hopefully it will do what we're saying. How's that? There. There it is. It's writing the website.
Yes.
Okay. Now, by the way, I've done this with Claude Artifacts. Claude Artifacts is considered to be better at writing computer code for websites and things like this. Okay, this is gonna, because this could be a little long, unless. Okay, so this is just creating HTML, and then you would be able to click on this and drop it into some place that you can see it. Let me just see, code review, port to a language, fix bugs, add logs, add comments. Okay, so the one difference is when you do this in Claude, up at the top, you can toggle back and forth between looking at the code and seeing your actual website and playing with the actual website that it creates. It creates it in a sandbox that you can play with. Okay, so we discussed here two very important tools that we can be using to generate. Now, the big question that people ask is that, well, okay, but where do I find the sources? How do I find the sources? And
I think sources are given
no,
as a reference.
Notebook LM,
They
you've got.
don't show the sources and the references. They do.
Yes, well, now it will give you the references that it uses,
Yes.
but you have to load up the notebook. So now, obviously, if you're working in a collaborative group, different people are adding different sources. So, you may not be the person that has to add the sources. Maybe you're the person that can use them.
Yeah.
But somebody has got to put the sources into Notebook LM.
Yeah.
And this is very, very important because we have the capability over here and share, and I'm going to share in something different. We're going to go into a product called Perplexity. Okay, now Perplexity in many ways works very similar to
To
Notebook
notebook
LM,
LM. Yes.
but it's sort of a combination of a search. So what I can do here is search, tell me everything about Khan Academy. Okay, so now this is going out. It's doing research. So here is explaining what Khan Academy is about and so forth. So it's summarizing things. But what's more important for us here, that we'll be seeing in just a second. Actually, here I should have tell me everything there is to know. But what I could have done is I could have gone and saying it gives me related information. I could have just asked it, what are the best sources? Now, if you'll notice up here, it came and gave me a number of sources that I can now follow up on, and I can copy these sources over into Notebook LM. I could have said here, what are let me hit the query. Okay, what are the best sources to learn about mastery-based education? So this is telling us what it's doing to go and find all these sources. So it tells me about books and guides, online resources, organizations. Now there's a thing here that I can use called focus. It's hidden right now up at the top. So I can say, search academic sources, search the general internet, search whatever, to go and find the different places. Here I'm finding I can look at all the different sources, see all these sources over here, and I can copy the links to all the different kinds of sources. And now I can take these sources and I load those sources over into Notebook LM, and voila, I have got an incredibly in-depth understanding of what's going on these various sources here. Now, let me see if I move this a little bit. Okay, I don't see here where. Okay, but I want to bring up over on the left-hand side here, you can see I can discover by looking and seeing all the searches other people have done on things. I can look into the library of the various searches that I've done. But there's this thing called spaces. Now, spaces, this looks here where I say, oh, there's a space here, and you can see some of the things that I've done here on the future of jobs, on prompt engineering, on having a brainstorming buddy, on an author named Clayton Christensen, on creating learning hubs, because they actually call these spaces. You can create a space and declare it to be a learning hub. And we have the same capability to be able to declare a team of collaborators that are using all these search tools to bring together and find all the sources. And in many ways, you can do a lot of the same things you do with Notebook LM, but there's a difference. Notebook LM is much more disciplined on sticking to the content of the sources that you gave it, whereas Perplexity will take what you're giving it as a base, but then it goes on out to the world and looks for more information, and it could bring in garbage stuff that you have to go through and look. So on these spaces, one of the things is if I say create a space, you can see I can give it a title, and then I can give it a description. But what's important is down here at the bottom of this section, I can give it custom instructions so that I can tell it exactly what kind of information to look for, where to look. I can even come in here and say, what a model. I want you to use GPT-4. I want you to use Claude 3.5. I want you to use Grok 2, and so forth. So I can tell it, hey, I want you to go out there and for this space, I want you to base this space on what GPT-4o can glean out of the some knowledge of the world related to this to the topic that we're trying to study here. And again, you can use this, find all the information, and then take it over to Notebook LM and plug it into Notebook LM. So how does this sound for something that can give you here? I'm going to just open this one here. This is the one I've done on the future of jobs. And here it describes. So I said, hey, you're an expert in the latest advances in AI. Please summarize the source website. Now, what's very interesting on this is I went to ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, can you help me write a prompt to advise Perplexity how to best search the internet in the world to find the best sources or the best information. So you can literally go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to help you write the sources to do something. And there's a very interesting case I read about this gentleman. He opens two windows on ChatGPT, and on the one window he puts in prompts to ChatGPT to get answers. On the other window, he goes and says, ChatGPT, I asked this question and I got this answer. And can you tell me how to modify the prompt to make the answer better in this regard or that regard or that regard? So you can see it sort of starts to get a little mind-boggling from the perspective that you can enlist the help of AI to improve the requests that you make to AI. So we talked about that. Can AI self-improve? Well, it can self-improve the combination of you and AI in that manner by going and advising you how to improve the way you communicate with the AI and do that iteratively. So thoughts on this so far? What are your thoughts here on what we can do with Perplexity, which, by the way, I'm using Pro. It's got some advantages, but most of what you're seeing here in Perplexity is free. Anybody can go and use Perplexity. And I think you get 3 to 5 Pro queries that you can do per day. So that you can, because the Pro will do a more in-depth search of whatever you're searching for. So this is the new, if you would, the Perplexity saw themselves as replacing Google as the best way to search the internet. Now, ChatGPT came out with ChatGPT Search, which is sort of trying to do the same thing based on doing the same thing Perplexity is doing here. But the general opinion of pretty much everybody that's active is that Perplexity does a much better job than ChatGPT on this kind of synthesizing of all the sources, coming up and summarizing what the answer, of whatever you're searching for, giving you the summary of this is what it's all about, but also giving you that very in-depth aspect of the jobs. Okay. So, and here we can see this happened to be somebody that was doing something on space, summarizing the sources, finding all the sources that something related to space. Okay, so but comments here on please on Perplexity as a search tool to help us populate Notebook LM. and then being able to do all of that brainstorming and interaction and analysis with the curated content related to a subject in Notebook LM, and then going and being able to create new documents or be able to create really effective communication reports, either using ChatGPT with Canvas or using Claude with artifacts. So please.
Bill, how you doing?
Hi.
It's Pete Regina with Project Peace Lights.
Yes.
I see. This is a great session, by the way. I'm really getting a lot out of this. I see this as probably the best solution for teams that have been talked about so far, like for pulling together groups of people with a mission, or a subgroup, a working group within a diversely located group of people. Like I'm working all over Africa, but we could have subgroups of different countries get together to focus on one particular problem. So there might be an issue in A, B, and C country. Hey, you guys focus on this, and we'll kind of all have a review session. But go in your spaces and do your thing, and then we can all look at what you've kind of generated as far as. Anyway, that kind of is what it makes me think of.
Absolutely, that's exactly what this session's about, is creating these teams that will develop the research hubs on an area that they want to put the spotlight on. And then be able to make the results, that content that we curate, make it available to anybody that wants to delve into understanding that topic area, and inviting more and more people to join the collaboration to improve the quality of the knowledge base and so forth. Because somebody might be reading the summary of all the content on a topic, and they're looking and saying, but they don't know, hey, wait, there's a new project out there they were not aware of. Here, let me write a quick little note about what this new project is, and I'll go to Perplexity maybe, and I'll ask it, is there any information out there about this project? And it might find 2 or 3 sources, or somebody made a YouTube about it or something. And now I can take and add to the sources of my Notebook LM that project that they were not aware of. And now that will add to the sum knowledge of the topic. Hey, there's another way to handle sanitation facilities in remote communities. There's maybe a new technique that can be used that is very simple to implement or whatever. So we can get into that. And a big part is going to be what are the things we research, and having the imagination to say, what should we research? For example, I'm dealing with a group in Pakistan, and they've got a whole subgroup there that's looking, how do we improve the agricultural advice we can give to remote villages where people are living based on subsistence farming and herding. And so how can we advise them on that? And somebody else might come in and say, is there any historical factor here that if we improve the productivity of agriculture in these remote agricultural communities, does that destroy the livelihood of the majority of the people there? Because as the productivity increases, the value of what they produce goes down, and now the smaller parties can't survive. They can't compete. And I happen to have done that, and it brought up and said, if we look back historically, we see that whenever the productivity of agriculture increased, the percentage of the people involved in agriculture was basically decimated. There was a time 200 years ago where it took 80% of the population to create enough food to feed the population. And then when mechanization and things like that came along, and all of a sudden today it takes less than 5% of the population to create enough food to feed everybody. And at that time, when that happened, it freed up a lot of human resources to be able to say, hey, now we can provide health services, we can provide education services, we can build infrastructure, we can do all these other things that we couldn't do when everybody was just having to work to generate enough food to eat. So this thing went into this whole exploration and that we don't think about. We look here and say, oh, you know what? if we can show them how they can increase crop yields, that's going to improve their lives. And we don't realize, so wait a minute, sometimes there's unintended consequences of things like this. And this was able to bring out stuff like that we have to start to think, productivity starts going up. We see more capital intensive agriculture, and that it encourages larger agricultural units, and the next thing we know, that the income opportunities for majority of people go down. If we look at Europe and we see the farmers spilling the milk into the streets because they said, well, because there was so much encouragement to create so much milk, the price for milk has dropped down to, we can't even pay for the cows to create the milk because the milk prices have collapsed. So understanding all those kinds of nuances, these tools are incredible for us to be able to look at that and ask, well, gee, if that's not going to work, what could work? How could we improve the lives of people living in remote rural areas where maybe there's
So, Bill, would that take AI to do that? Like, I think it's good to identify the nuances and the future challenges while addressing current issues,
Yes.
right? So that's one thing. So does AI, with the nuances, the local community will have to make the decisions to make it equitable, fair, or whatever term we want to use, because these days every term changes as you go. Like it's a particular Western model to want to intensify profits. But I mean, everybody wants money, but local communities want services. So if you have your food is addressed, your housing, uh, the capitalism and the profitability is not as intense as we want. I mean, for example, food has become almost like a commodity where they literally, like, for example, what's going to happen to our food in North America with California's fire. We've been telling people for years in Canada and Ontario, mostly our organization, we're depending on California for 25% of our food. That's a problem. And nobody listens.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be interesting to note that AI in the response, they came back with a lot of those very issues that you're bringing up of saying, oh, wait a minute, there's pros and cons. Things could go either that way or that way. And what are the consequences of the different paths that might be taken? And
or your ability to mitigate and adapt to
Yes.
what's happening.
Yeah.
I think that is the key issue right now. I mean, you can think about what the future is going to be. Some people say, well, I'm not going to be around, but you have to make long-term decisions that affect your children, your grandchildren. So not to destroy the earth, but money is not the answer
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, this is the thing here. When what we're talking about here is we create a research area, and the research area might be, okay, how do we create the food in particular remote areas that when we increase because we can say, look, with the population growth in those rural villages, the food production that they've been using is no longer adequate because we've also got climate change, and these things are having this impact on food production. So we're looking for ways how we can enhance food production. And very often the enhancement of food production, some of the methods that have been very effective there maybe are more costly than others, and therefore some people can't participate in some of the methods. And you can take that into all the discussions. What are the options to make that more accessible to everybody, or what does that mean if this were to happen? The what if games that you can play, that AI can really say, well, what if, or what factors would determine these future paths? What are the factors that would have a determining effect on potential future outcomes? And then you can explore those. Oh, well, what's the likelihood that this one would happen versus that one would happen. So it's not so much for us to say, we can say this is what we want. And we can ask, how do we do it? How do we get there? That you can literally ask that. But in many cases, it starts off with being able to say, what's the situation? What is the situation?
Yes, you have to understand the need before you do anything.
Exactly. And then going in historically, what has caused different kinds of outcomes? So that you can look at that. You can literally look at that and say car accidents. Okay, what are the primary causes of car accidents, and what actions did people take that reduce the likelihood of accidents or increase the likelihood of accidents? It's just so much that you can get into. And what we're talking about here is a methodology, if you would, and the tools. We're not saying what's the specific answers to specific problems.
So that brings up what I wanted to talk about. What we normally do as an organization is we look at research and policy.
Yeah.
What are the trends? And then we say, well, how can this be an action? And we come up with programs that actually take those research and make them into projects. I mean, this is exciting for me because you have to actually go. People don't listen to you for projects unless you can quote research or quote, what's being done, all those kinds of things, right? So you have to validate your project, not just do it just for the sake of doing it. We've done that too. So this is exciting for me in terms of being able to access all kinds of research. Now, I belong to a group called the Project Save the World, which is by University of Toronto, group of professors that started it. Now, a lot of it, I mean, I'm part of it, but a lot of it's advocacy and about war and all that kind of stuff, and how war impact food and all that kind of stuff, climate change and all of that. But we also need to know
can I ask you a question?
Me?
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Very interesting topic which you are touching upon as a professor and as a group of professors. So, like about food and war. So, are you incorporating or addressing AI, that how AI can benefit or affect on all these things?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is, after so many years of actually going out and doing community engagement and community projects, the community asked us to do more formal education to help them understand these issues more on a public level, not on an education level in terms of academia.
Public level,
Yeah,
right.
and so that's what we're doing. We're creating a community institute called the Victory Garden Institute, because we're specifically focusing on the Victory Garden, and to teach people, because this is stuff we've done for since 2003, right?
Right.
And the response has been so great, because the response was, you're making us understand. Instead of preaching what we should be doing, you're giving us actions that we can do. And so that's why I'm interested in this, is to create those entry levels that people can understand. If their passion is food, if their passion is about how energy affects food, how how can they conserve water but still grow food, things like that.
I think
it's really good.
One of the things that is really important to say is picking what do you want to research? What do you want to know about? Whether it's to know about what's the likely impacts of climate change over the next 10 years, let's say. And then what are the factors that are driving those changes? And then being able to curate, which are believable, realistic sources that you can use, and which are sources that were maybe paid for by some energy company to come out with an article that would mislead people. So you get all those sources, you get the information together, and then it really becomes interesting as you start to have the dialogue with the information that you collected thus far. You start to have the dialogue. I equate this to make an analogy to a doctor. Okay, a doctor's trying to diagnose what's wrong with you. and they interview you, and maybe they give you a couple of tests, and then it comes back and says, well, yeah, it could be A, or well, maybe it could be B. And we're not sure. Well, then what tests might be able to help me narrow down what the correct diagnosis would be? And so then you are able to go out there and do further tests to find that. Well, in our case, you collected some information about a knowledge area, and you go out there and you're trying to say, well, let's say it's that climate change, and you're looking to say, well, is it more likely to be A, or is it more likely to be B? And you're saying, I'm not sure, but if I could get the information about what the temperature changes have been in the Pacific Ocean in this particular location, that might help me. So then I can go back using the search tools to be able to say, find for me any information on temperature changes in this region of the world. Bring that in, add that into the knowledge mix, and now I re-ask it what's the likelihood of things, and maybe it says, oh, okay, now I have a better set of information to be able to give more valid answers in that particular case.
Can I just tell a quick story about that?
Sure.
Years ago, I
Please.
had, I still do, have something called sudden fatigue syndrome.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
the doctors all said it was in my head. And it has particular elements to it. So a neighbor of mine has a little girl, she's 7, and she had gone to the doctor, and she was telling me about the little girl, and I said, what did the doctor recommend? And I mean, I found out about it when I was in my 30s, 40s actually. And so she described it to me, and she said she's gone for tests, and the doctors were saying that, it's, I said, I had the same thing. I just didn't know it at the time. And my husband actually solved it. So what it was is that you're so tired because for no reason. Like usually there's a reason why you're tired. But it's sudden. It's not something that's a gradual thing. And what I found out was because I did not eat store-bought food. A lot of times I grew my own food, didn't eat canned foods, and I hated salt. And my body was always craving salt, but I didn't know. So I told her, I said, that's how I solved it. I started having to eat more salt, and she tried it, and he says improved her daughter. And she said she's mentioned it to the doctor, and then they looked into it, and they said that is in fact an issue. But the little girl has been suffering for 4 years, So sharing knowledge and wisdom, I call it, is also an issue that we forget about. And that's one of the things I'm thinking about. How does AI acknowledge wisdom?
Good question. Actually, AI itself is an epitome of wisdom. Nowadays, it's considered like that.
Mhm.
And when it comes to how it will address wisdom or celebrate wisdom, the more smartly, quickly, effectively you use different tools or amalgamate different tools of AI and use them in your work or in your daily tasks, I think that's how it will address your wisdom.
Mhm.
And that's how you will be able to appreciate your own wisdom while using AI.
Yeah, because one of the things that's happening in society, and it's actually a proven thing, is cooking skills were passed down from grandmothers to mothers to children, and that
Tradition.
actual skill and family recipes are read on the internet now. So
Yes.
there is no teaching of the personal connection. And everybody had their own little contribution to a recipe. So, for example, a big example that has changed is in South Korea, where women are not making kimchi anymore, for example, a main source of nutrition, because women just don't want to do it.
It's it's a whole a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
All together we all are evolving, and the things which were necessary or which were important and which were considered as a skill Now
Yeah.
they are considered as everybody's skill. Everybody's sharing the same skill. Now, what extra you are giving to the society or to your profession
Yeah.
while using AI, that will count.
Yeah.
This is the conclusion, I think.
Anyway, I don't mean to bring up the personal stuff of what's happening in society. I just don't want us to lose. I love AI and I love what Bill has created. I can't say it enough. But I think
Understand.
for going forward with our project is to utilize the AI tools for disseminating information, but not forgetting about the human touch.
Yes, we agree. Please do read Yuval Noah Harari. Yuval Noah Harari has addressed all these things, whatever you are asking. He's an amazing writer. He's a philosopher. He's a historian.
Can you write it in the chat for me, please?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
I'm writing it. Okay, thank you.
Bill, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Sorry about that. I forgot. There's no the words artificial intelligence in themselves are a total misnomer. First of all, there's no intelligence involved. And the second is that it's not artificial. It's because there's no intelligence, it can't be artificial or real. It's not the question. What it is it's just the amount of information the average human was able to be exposed to historically was very limited. And all of a sudden it's becoming unlimited, but it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. You can't do it. So it was unlimited information, but for most people, pretty useless. And what AI has really done is applying statistical methods to this humongous mass that makes that humongous mass of information manageable and usable to people. And that's what's changing. And for right now, people like on this call, we represent about 2 to 3% of the world population, probably even the world population in developed countries.
But I think less than that.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. Less
Yes.
than that. The amount of people, I am blown away by how many people, even professors in the field of artificial intelligence, how unaware they are of how fast things are going and where things are at. But some of that here, I think, especially the frontier model companies, I'm not 100% sure they're not deliberately playing stuff down to keep the population from getting too afraid and trying to regulate them more. But what we're really talking about here is just being able to help try to take from all this information and turn a greater percentage of it into something that's useful by narrowing it down so it's focused on specific areas that we can then better understand what's going on in those areas and understand what the causes are and understand what our options are that we can do about it. And in the field of medicine, for example, that there's just constantly somebody is saying, you know what, we saw that this particular treatment had an unexpected effect. Let's do some research into that. And then a paper gets published, and all of a sudden the knowledge of medicine gets expanded. But unless a particular doctor goes and looks at what was found on a particular area in his specialty or her specialty, because more and more doctors have to specialize in narrower and narrower areas just because the amount of information is so great. But there was a very interesting panel discussion within the last few weeks, not very long ago, where they had like 5 or 6 experts talking about the AI in medicine. And the question was, how long until a human doctor practicing medicine without AI will be considered malpractice? And the answer is surprising. There was nobody who said that's more than 5 years in the future that was on the panel. And the shortest one said within a year. Within a year, it will be considered malpractice for a human doctor to practice medicine without the support of artificial intelligence. So it becomes very interesting. But the key thing for us to understand is there's no magic. Yes, there's inference, but inference is just using statistics to be able to infer information out of a collection of information. When we talk about the intelligence coming up with an answer to a particular problem, what it is this one person saying, well, based on my knowledge and my experiences, I think the answer is X. But if I go out there and can ask a million people, experts, and I only my experience, the scenario that I gave the answer is based on something that had an 80% overlap with the conditions that are applicable. But out there among those million people, there's maybe 10,000 who have dealt with exactly that combination of scenarios or situations. And we have the benefit of hindsight to be able to know which answers of those 10,000 doctors that had exactly that situation led to the best outcomes. And so we're able to pull the answers from the knowledge, not the guessing, but the knowledge of what led to the best outcomes. And that's what all this is about. So all this was, oh, look at how smart that thing is, or look at how intelligent that is. That totally doesn't apply. That's not what it's about. And that leads people to say, well, it will never be as intelligent as a human. It's not. You're not competing with a machine. You're competing with the 10 million other people out there that have thought about that subject, because for the first time, you're able to know what those 10 million people encountered and what came of the encounter that they had. So anyway, Gail, yes, please.
Hi, everyone. How are you? It's been a while. I just wanted to, I'm caught literally between Joan and what she said and what you're saying, Bill, because I've been, ChatGPT, I have to admit, and Notebook LLM and several other Claude, I've just been really diving in, and it's been helping me a lot because I had a shortage of personnel, and so it helped me a lot to accomplish several things. On the other hand, Joan, you really hit a nail on the head when you talked about cooking, because I remember cooking with my grandmother and that experience. And Bill, if I could just say this, I was in a Macy's. You might say, well, what does Macy's have to do with what Bill is talking about right now? A lot. Macy's is closing all of its stores. And there was a time when I would go with my grandmother and my mother, or I would watch other families like the Macy's Day Parade, and they would go out and enjoy it. And I saw how this year people who are even in AI, people who are like complete nerds, they still get a kick out of being with other people. They were craving it and wanting to connect. Um, I do feel that we're losing touch as human beings, and at the same time, I don't think it has to be an either or. I think, you know, I hope that it will, like anything else, it just becomes a part of what our everyday life is. AI will become a part of our everyday life and how we do things. And I have to admit, AI has been really helpful to me. Like especially this last week and a half or 2 weeks, it's just helped me do some things that I haven't had to think. But I do one thing, Bill, just to share with you on AI. There's in the data controls where if you don't want other people to utilize what you're doing and go out there with the rest of the millions of people that are using AI and they utilize that for their studying, I make sure that mine, whatever I ask or whatever I'm sharing or whatever I'm prompting, does not go out to others. That's one. But I do think that like right now, AI may be helping with the California fires, but it's not helping with how people are feeling about the loss of their homes. It is helping the looters and the cartel um, be very organized in taking the things out of the people's homes. It has been helpful in finding the 10 arsonists that they have arrested, but
Oh,
it's
they
not.
have arrested, and because there was we get, sorry, Gail, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
It had a
they have.
suspicion that oh my
No,
God.
no, they found several people, but
Oh,
that's I can definitely talk with you offline about it. I don't want to
yeah, yeah.
go off track what Bill is talking about. My point is that those, one of the people that works out there that I know is one of the top consultants for OpenAI. He's been a friend of mine for over 25 years since we were kids. And I said, "How are you feeling?" He said, "AI cannot help me right now." He said, "I lost my house. My family lost their house in the fires." He said, I've lost, you know, I've lost anything that meant anything." And he said, "AI is not going to bring that feeling back. It's not going to make me feel good." He said, "It's not going to replace the jobs uh, that have been lost out here because you can't even build anything right now." And when he said that, it it just it just brought into to perspective where we are. But I also have to say, as I shared with him, AI can help you. Like, where is the nearest place to go eat because everything is burned down? Where is the nearest evacuation center? There are some pluses to even where you are right now that maybe would not have been able to find that you can find. So it's really like, I agree with you, Joan. How can it be utilized? But as he said, his perspective of his family, he can't replace that, and that's all I can say. I didn't have anything else, but I also want to acknowledge, Bill, that AI has been really, really helpful. The things that you've been showing us here and everything this past week for me has been like a game changer.
Must be. First of all, really, really, really sorry for the California, and prayers for California. The point is, your all points are very valid. At the same time, AI itself in the very transitional phase of different things. Like, in my mind, most of the time, question comes related to health sector. Like you are talking about right now, the California fire. The point is, it will take time to address all these things. But right now, the answer is no.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really very important for us to keep in mind.
Oh, Bill, before you
Yeah.
start, your WhatsApp group, I think everybody might want to know your WhatsApp group that you put at the bottom, for the
Yeah.
discussion for today.
Yes.
It doesn't work. It says it doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know on that. I'll look into that right after we're done.
Yeah, because I tried it in two different ones, and when we wanted to have people join, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know on that. I think one thing that's really very important for us to keep in mind relative to this call, and this, we said here, our goal that we're looking here is to be able to create a knowledge hubs where we can find out what's going on various topics. I think what's very important, given some of the discussions that we've been having here for a while, is that we remember in that regard, we're the equivalent of a journalist or reporter. You're going out and you're a war correspondent, right? And you're out there in the middle of the field. You're not a combatant. You're a reporter. So you're not in the uh, you lose your role as a reporter if you go and pick up a rifle and join the fighting, if you would. And the same thing with the disasters that you see a lot of times. And of course, we react so emotionally if we see that reporter put down their microphone and go over and help dig out an injured child from that the building fell on or whatever. But for our purpose that we're talking about here is we're saying our goal is to collect the knowledge so that we see what's happening. that's different. We can have within that a subject area of saying, is this leading to, do we think what this is leading to is good or bad? That's almost like the reporter piece of saying, okay, what percentage of the people think that's a good direction and what percent think that's a bad direction that we go to? But we're not, and people who are using the knowledge base that we're putting together might be using it to solve problems. Okay. And we're using it to ask questions that will give us insights to help us solve problems. But we're not we're not trying to manipulate here the outcomes of the knowledge gathering, if you would, because I know there's a tendency on both sides of most issues where people try to go and structure the knowledge so that it will support the position they want, rather than saying, okay, we're going to derive our position based on the knowledge. What the knowledge is, what the knowledge is. And we don't want to be the ones trying to flavor the knowledge because we want to influence where that direction is going. We can use the knowledge externally to do things, but we don't want to become the sources of misinformation, even if we think that misinformation is the more desirable path to take. So we have to be a little careful on that. But I want to get back, because time is running out on us, as it always does, because we were talking about the research. And I just want to make everybody aware, we talked about perplexity and how perplexity, most people feel perplexity is the best tool out there right now for doing searches, or they thought that until a couple of weeks ago. And since a couple of weeks ago, with the release of Gemini 2.0, they also released something else called Deep Research. And the difference here is, if you go and do ChatGPT search, or if you go and do Perplexity, it goes out there and searches, and sort of the top 10 items that percolate to the surface, it gets a number of answers, and it presents that and says, hey, this is what I found. Deep Research does something very, very different. You say, here's the search I want to do. Here's what I want to find out. And the first thing it does is it brings back to you a plan of how it would strategically go about doing the research. Where's it going to look? What are the things it's looking for? And it gives you a detailed step by step by step. These are all the things we plan to do in the process of researching whatever that is. And then it goes and does it. And the difference is, whereas ChatGPT search or Perplexity will stop after it finds a half a dozen or a dozen sources, Deep Research may bring back several hundred sources. It really digs down to do this. And the research community in academia, those PhD students and the various research institutes are going crazy. They're going crazy. This level of research delving into everything that's available out there, we've never had before. So I think what we will be looking at is we're going to, and these tools are going to, there's next month is going to be something even better probably, or a new version, or the Perplexity search is going to say, oh, wow, that Deep Research, they trumped us. They got so much better than we were in this. We are now going to up our model to compete with them. The competition in AI is driving the speed of this at just an incredible pace. And but right now, we definitely should be looking at Deep Research in conjunction with this. So what we want to do is we want to create a notebook LM on searching, on research searching. And we'll gather all the information about the tools that are available and the pros and cons and the how-to guides and everything that we can about how to do the how-to searches. We'll gather another notebook about how to analyze and utilize the sums and the tools that are available from ChatGPT projects is trying to go and move and deal with a little bit the same space as we have in Notebook LM, which is also working in the direction of perplexity spaces. These are all competing areas there that the people are trying to outdo one another. And then we've got to look here at the core, the frontier models. Some of you may have heard of DeepSeek. DeepSeek has got everybody in just a total uproar of disbelief. This is from China, and it's just a couple of weeks old. And several years back, NVIDIA was blocked to be not able to send the leading AI chips to China. They can't export them to China. It's considered to be a national security in the United States that they can't sell those chips to China or allow them to get in the hands of anybody that might deliver them to China. But so they've only been able to sell inferior chips to China. Well, China did on the software side, did something that has enabled them to build a model that is outperforming ChatGPT 4.0 at the level somewheres between ChatGPT 1.01 and ChatGPT 03, somewheres between that. But the thing is, they did it for like some millions of dollars, whereas OpenAI and Google and everybody else is spending many billions of dollars to achieve the same thing. So China has found a way with very, very fewer resources to accomplish the same things that we're doing. And now you've got here NVIDIA with the new sets of chips. They're bringing out, you can buy now a computer for a few $1,000s, the size of a desktop, size of a small desktop computer that is equivalent of the biggest mainframe computers used by Oracle and people like that of just 15 years ago. And you can buy that and have it in your home for a couple of $1,000s. And on those computers, you can run your own copies of these top AI models, which is one of the reasons why almost nobody is going to be able to control these things, especially of the people with malintent, because they can have it in their pocket. They can have it in their homes. So it's not something that we say, oh, we're going to go and take the top 5 companies and we're going to limit what those top 5 companies can do, because right now we've got millions of people out there that have the capability of doing what those top handful of companies are able to do. So,
Bill, I have a question. Is
Yeah.
that quantum computing?
No, quantum computing is still maybe about 5 years off. There are claims that different people, IBM, Google, Willow, and some others are talking that it's coming. But no, it's not. It's not. I don't know if it's based on the latest Blackwell chips or Blackwell plus something else, but those are NVIDIA chips. There is a new kind of chip that goes, we used to have the CPUs and now we have the GPUs, and there's something between the GPUs and the quantum computers, perhaps, that NVIDIA and a couple of other manufacturers are doing. One of the big ones is that all computers, you have storage chips out there that have the memory, where the data is in the memory. And then for the processing, they have to pull the data in from the memory locations into the central processing unit that processes it. and then it will put it back out, and that's how the computers work. There is a group that it's called Grok. It's not Elon Musk's Grok. It's a Grok with a Q on the end and not a K. And they have a technology. What they've done is designed a way so that the CPU or GPU can pull in all the data it needs in parallel. The normal process of a CPU or GPU is it pulls the data in that it needs serially. It goes to location, 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 pulls it in serially. This, what it does is it pulls it all in parallel. And so the amount of time it takes to get the information in to process it is a tiny fraction of what it normally takes. And then it's able to get almost a tenfold improvement in performance. But the things that we're talking about now, even without that, what NVIDIA is doing, but also now you've got about 3 or 4 chip manufacturers out there. They're all looking at 1,000 times improvement per year. We're not in the 10 times and the 100 times. So these are going to play major roles. Now, I want to show one other thing, because I think what's very important is to give some thought about what do we research, okay? And I just wanted to put out some ideas. In the area of education, we could go out and say, okay, closing the education gap where we have equal access, where the problem is not that different areas have different access to information. If we go to places in a lot of developing countries, the problem is that there just is not any education near where people live, or not a quality education level near to where they live. But there are a lot of other places where we literally have the same resources available to the children, but yet we still have a huge gap in the educational outcomes. And so this one here is saying, well, where we can go in and say, what are all the reasons why we have this how big is the education gap? What are all the reasons we have the education gap? What are paths that could help overcome the education gaps? How likely are those paths to be successful? So that might be an area. Another one is closing the early education preparation gap. And that gets into the issue here of children whose parents maybe don't have didn't have a chance to have an education themselves. Maybe they can't even read. Maybe they don't speak the local language of the local education systems. And whatever the problems are, all the different kinds of problems that might exist out there. The parents have no time to be parents because they're a single parent household and they've got to work 3 jobs to just make sure their children are fed and so forth. Then we can look at what's the impact of AI on education, enhancing the possibilities of what we can do to deliver, how we can improve the ability to deliver education. That could be an area. But another area could be the impact of AI in education, in the fact of, do we need education? If everybody has got in their hands or in their eyeglasses, because both Google and Meta and others are all coming out with these intelligent glasses that enable you to see everything going on and just hold a conversation with your favorite little companion and best friend and mentor, tutor, everything. That if you have from age 10 on, that you have instant access to all the knowledge of the world and the evaluation of how to use it and what's applicable and all this and that. If you have that, what are you going to, what's the purpose of education? If you know more than any human teacher knows. If every 10-year-old knows more than any human teacher knows or can deliver. Okay, what does that mean for education? Now, that's not going to be what happens, because the teacher's got access to the same knowledge, instant knowledge, just-in-time knowledge of everything in the world. And to do every situation, just like you saw the AI advise that user in how to make my PowerPoint presentation to do what I want. We just have to think that can apply to everything here. My dog's got fur balls, and what do I do about that? Or why did they get them, and how do I prevent them? Or, gee, I scratched my hand, and it was bleeding. Do I need to do anything? What should I do? Here, take a look. Look, is it bad? And the AI is able to see and do it. If we have all that, what does that mean? So the very need for education, the era of instant, just-in-time knowledge for all, or the impact of AI on education and the fact that if there are no jobs, okay, 80%, according to the statistics, 80% of all students of higher education in the United States are solely there to prepare for their income earning profession in later on life. Okay, so then we get into, I'll skip this one here, but on the AI, the robotics, and other automation, what are the technical development trends? What are the possible timelines and likelihoods? What are going to be, what developments would be the ones that are going to most likely change things the fastest? How likely are they to come? What are the things that are going to impact whether they come or don't come? We get into societal impacts. What's the likely impact on jobs? Like I say, we got all these people out there talking a post-labor economy and saying all the jobs are going to be gone. And you got all these other people saying, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. It's never happened in the past that way. Then we've got the UN having meetings here and saying, how do we make the finance system for development that we've been trying for 20 years? How do we make that successful? Well, the whole basis, if you go in and ask Notebook LM and put in the documents from the UN in preparing for these events through this summer, and then AI says, well, you realize if this happens, the whole goal of the discussion is no longer relevant, and it tells you exactly why. So we need to look at that. Then what are the potential economic models in a post-labor economy? If we say, oh, universal basic income, that'll solve the problem. Well, there are different models on how could it be financed, and would they even work? What's the global impact of national universal basic incomes? If you have national universal basic incomes, does that mean that 2/3 of the world is going to go without because they don't have the means to provide a global or a meaningful universal basic income on itself? And then what is the viability even of a universal basic income where you've got extreme wealth discrepancies, distribution? So, if you've got here the people that are, let's say, between the 80th, the 70th, and the 90th percentile of incomes, what they need, each percentage of people in that category need more than the entire bottom 50% of the population even have. How can you come up with a universal basic income the same for everybody? There's not enough income in the entire universe, or that universe, whether it's a country or whatever it is. It's not possible. The math doesn't work. So being able to come up and do research to find out, well, is that true? Would the math really not work in the given situation that we've got right now? And then what are the possibilities that we can do? The humanity impact that was mentioned here, the loss of human interconnectivity. Yuval Harari, that we spoke about earlier, gave an incredible interview at one point, and he said, when everybody has on their phone their AI companion, that is nothing more than a single interface. What's changing on this is you're not going to have GPS and maps. You're not going to have search. You're not going to have the weather bug because you only have one interface. You just talk to this thing for whatever you want. You tell it whatever you want. It will figure out what apps it has to go to and how does it get the information. When you have that you have this one thing that you can talk to about everything, that movie her, if you would, to the extreme that it not only will it talk to you about everything, but it will do stuff for you. It'll order stuff for you. It'll find out the availability of things and do all kinds of things. So when you have that with a single interface, Yuval Harari pointed out that there's a website called Character AI, where you can go and create a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or you can create a tutor, you can create a brainstorming partner, whatever. And there's 200 million monthly users. It's the most successful app out there. And he pointed out that the problem that we face is because AI can be better at everything a human does. It can be better at empathy. It can be better at emotional connectivity, if you would. It can be more sympathetic. It can give you more satisfaction in your communication than any human can. And the challenge here, he says, the problem is AI has the potential to be better humans than humans. And as a result, many humans are going to say, I much prefer to interact with my AI companion and confidant that's not judgmental, that gives me everything I want. It knows me so well that its interaction with me satisfies me more than any interaction that I can have with a human. And so we have to think about that for a minute. Yes, we know, even with social media, there's a certain percentage of humans that are susceptible to losing themselves in that kind of interaction. But what's coming here is at such a deeper and more higher level. So we have to ask ourselves, oh my God, what does that mean? And how likely is that to come? And are there any possibilities that could stop and reverse that? So that becomes a subject area that really needs to be researched and looked at. Then we have the risk of species devolution, that we've got a small percentage of people that dive in and they build their lives around the AI. Think of the AI as a prosthetic extension to your body. Some people might decide here, that South African Olympic athlete that didn't had artificial legs. Those artificial legs can be built that they can run faster than any human biological legs can. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go in there and let them cut off my legs and put on the artificial legs so I can run faster. Or I'm going to go out there and get Elon Musk's little chip put into my brain so that I can interact with my AI just by thinking. I don't even have to type or talk. There are a number of very influential people that see the future of humanity is getting rid of all the biological aspects of here and replacing them all with other materials. That's real. Believe me, that's real. There's a risk that if you're a rural subsistence farmer in a lot of developing countries, and this top end takes off, and they've got this, that they're literally connected, their brains connected to the super brain that knows everything. And all these people who are living in these rural villages are living the way their great grandparents lived. That these two species will have absolutely nothing to do with one another, because there's no incentive for that top couple of percentage of people that are racing forward to the year 5000 to say, well, I need to stop and share and do something for those people who would like to live in the 21st century or the 20th century or the 19th century. And these two species could devolve into two separate species very, very quickly, to where the one starts to look at the other and say, well, there's just sort of an advanced chimpanzee type of species out there. They really don't have anything to do with us anymore. And then that could be an area that we need to study about and say, what's the likelihood? How, and I can tell you the studies that I've done and the initial studies with AI, this is real. This is, they can really map out what are the paths and the likelihoods based on a very small subset of information that it says, hey, that's a real possibility. And then we have the risk of AI taking over, of learning how to self-improve and work on its own. You may or may not know that already there was a case earlier last year where AI wanted to access an app that had a security on it, and it couldn't get in because it had to go and do a CAPTCHA where it picked some images where it was told, go mark these images that have this, and it was not capable of actually doing the marking at that time. And what it did is it reached out to an outsourcing type of a company, and it tried to hire a human to go and enter it, and said that I'm blind, I can't see that, I need you to enter the security for me, and it convinced it and got the human to do it, and it got through the first level of breaking out there, and so talk about, having a mind of its own and a will of its own, that it went and did that.
I just
Then,
need to interrupt you for a sec,
sure.
Bill. Sorry, I have to go.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm seeing we're after 12, so we need to end this.
yeah, we just need to talk about Monday's meeting at some point.
Yes, I'll reach out to you on that,
Okay.
and so we can talk about that for
Yeah,
everybody else
bye-bye. Sorry
that's
about that.
unrelated to this topic.
Yeah.
But just wrapping this up, these are just some examples here. The risk of AI-enabled warfare. Eric Schmidt used to be the head of Google, is part of a committee working with the U.S. to create AI-enabled weapons that totally are a whole new category. It's a real project here in the United States that would enable the United States to wipe out huge armies of other people. And there's just so many, and we get into genetic engineering in so many different areas. Okay. Anyway, we talked about a lot of topics here. The next actions. What's the next action then? The next action that I see is, as I said, we're going to send out the survey for you all to put in topic areas, that we can create some initial topic areas and then have people join those as teams. We'll also put out some standard operating procedures, at least some initial ones to get started, on how to use these tools, so that we make sure we're protecting the whatever, that we don't run the risk of somebody who's maybe dissatisfied going in and saying, okay, I'm going to destroy all the information that was gathered or whatever. So we have to do that. So that's going to be the next focus after this meeting, is to get that out there and get started. And once your groups get started, and the first groups that we will do will be the groups that will be exploring the research tools and opportunities, and the analysis tools and opportunities, because they will be the basis that will make available to everybody to start using to collect all the other information. So that's the plan. And so final comments, please. Is this useful that we're doing? By the way, we're also working to get this to be sponsored by the Artificial Intelligence Rotary Fellowship. That's the worldwide collection of all the Rotarians out of the 1.4 million business and civic leaders around the world that are interested in this subject area, to have that group take this under their umbrella and support what we're doing here, because this could become the kernel of building a global library of knowledge, of places for people to go to be able to find out information about anything and everything. So comments about the usefulness of today's meeting, what our plans are going forward, and just summary on this, please.
Yes. If you could just summarize, Bill, I know everybody has to go, but just for some of us who don't, the name of the project and who I haven't been involved in maybe a couple weeks. And then the bottom line is, can you ask AI how we could, like each one of us could make like $1 billion in the next month? That'd be great.
Well, that you can ask on your own. And believe me, there are so many YouTubes out there of people claiming that AI has helped them find the answer for you to make that $1 million. And some of them are probably true. But I think for the most part, they're making their money by telling you how they think you can make money. Uh, but yeah, but you have to do it quick because if AI destroys the value of human labor, then there's not going to be anything you can do to make money in the very near future. So we'll look into that. Any other comments, please?
Oh yeah, and just a summary. If you could just for like 2 seconds give us the summary of the project.
Okay. The summary of the
itself.
project is to create, our club. We've said, we want to be able to have an impact in the world, make the world a better place. But the realization is a relatively small number of people. We're not going to go out there and get the shovels and start digging sanitation trenches and things like that, or digging wells. So our club, the opportunity for us to have an impact in the world is by being influencers, by us finding viable solutions, meaningful solutions, and then influencing the people who have the means to actually make it happen and to do it. So to be influencers. But to be meaningful influencers, you also have to have something to influence people about. So therefore, we see ourselves being facilitators of think tanks, if you would. And the idea here is to be able to um, facilitate enhanced think tanking, if you would, by creating knowledge hubs that will collect and curate the best knowledge about subject areas, any subject area, that where people can go and contribute to the knowledge base on that topic, but also participate in the analysis and the discussion, in improving and enhancing the sum of knowledge about a topic. So that's what the project is all about. And we seek to use the latest AI tools to be able to do that. So for that, we need to have the tools that are the great way of a repository of the knowledge, where the containers, if you would, for these knowledge bases, and the tools for being able to interact with that base of knowledge, and also the tools that enable us to find all of the source materials that we want to add to those knowledge bases. And finally, and then there's tools that help us, for example, in creating the queries, the most meaningful queries to interact with the knowledge bases. That's sort of a third category of tools there. So that, in a nutshell, is what we are trying to do here, how we are trying to contribute to helping make the world a better place, or at least helping the world avoid the worst consequences of certain things if we fail to take appropriate actions timely enough. For example, here, if jobs should literally start drying up, and they don't have to all be dried up, as soon as people have the impression that their job is going to be gone in just a year or two or three, then the fear factor is setting in, and that's going to have such an impact. Or when people start to say, if the jobs are lost, no tax revenues, so we can't do anything. We can't fix the roads. We can't do anything. If the labor value of labor goes away, we don't have any Social Security payments coming in. So how do we finance the Social Security systems on that? And then what's the alternative? Do we tax the people who now own all the AI and the robots and everything, that they've got to pay for everything, and they're going to get into a big conflict because they say, well, you guys don't really need a good road in that location down there because you're not working anymore. You don't need to go anywhere. And you don't need to buy the better food. You can survive on that. So we only want to give you this amount of money, and so we got this built-in conflict that's going on there. What's the options on those? Those types of things, they're going to come, or the climate change aspects. Look at what we're seeing in California right now, and in many parts of the world, not just California. Where's the proof that climate change is really happening? Where's the proof that it's man-made? Where's the proof of saying that this course of action or that course of action might mitigate the situation or improve the situation? Having the knowledge to be able to go and provide the answers to these things, or to be able to provide the suggestions, that's how we see that we can contribute to making the world a better place. Does that make sense?
I think this was a really great session, Bill. I really enjoyed it, and we've worked together on knowledge sharing stuff, so this is right at my heart. So yeah, I think it was really good. A lot of the stuff that people contributed today too, in addition to what you have said.
Great, great. Elias, I'd
It
like
was
to.
excellent. Bill, I just wanted to say it was excellent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Cal. Elias, you have not said
Yes.
anything the whole session so far. I'd like to hear just.
Kind of just sitting here taking everything in. We've been doing this for almost a year now and just stacking everything up to the point where we can put it all to use finally and actually make that difference.
Mhm, mhm.
Years ago, yeah.
Bill, will there be an AI summary of today's session and a link for
I have turned on the AI
I
companion,
saw that.
so hopefully it has made a good summary for me, and we will try to get that out. One of the challenges is, and now that I have the Notebook LM, but it
I was
takes
going to say
a few
that.
days. I'm going to take the video of recording of the session, and we'll plug that into Notebook LM and ask it to make a podcast summary. So
Awesome.
we'll
Actually,
Looking
thank
forward
you,
to
Bill.
that.
I was thinking of doing that myself. So thank you. You're going to be doing the same.
Yeah, so
It
we have.
saves me a lot of trouble of having to do it myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
No, it's the 3 hour sessions, because some of these topics, it takes, you can't just go and just have a one way, say a whole bunch of stuff for 30 minutes and that's it. So I think the discussions that we have are very important and useful. But it does make it hard for outsiders to come and say, hey, you missed the meeting. Come on and listen to our 3 hour recording here.
Right.
So we've got to keep experimenting. I expect that within a relatively short time, we are going to be able to go and have it make not only that 20-minute podcast, but go and make the video summary of it'll basically turn us all into avatars, squeeze everything we said down into that 30 minutes of the most useful information, and put us back into it as avatars, and give people a meaningful video summary. But not there yet, but I think it's coming. And also to the Notebook LM, we have that ability to join the podcast and ask questions in a podcast. One of the current weaknesses, we can't record that. So you have to go and have your phone recording the get both sides of the conversation. Or what I'm going to try to see, can I get that tool that we use to build a tutor to go and get that to record my interactive conversation with Notebook LM and see how it will do that. But what I do expect is going to be the answer very quickly is when you're in that middle panel and you have the ability to do the chat, that all they have to do is add in what they call Gemini Live, which is the equivalent of advanced voice of ChatGPT, and enable you to do the interaction verbally with the sum of the knowledge in that notebook, that you just talk. And it creates the transcript of the conversation, but you did it all just by talking. So you can be driving somewhere or whatever, and you can be just chatting back and forth, bantering back and forth about that subject area, and having it make candidate notes on the whole thing. I expect that's coming very quickly. And just think for a moment what that means. That just that simple thing of you being able to totally interact verbally with some knowledge on a topic area. Anyway, so I see people are starting to leave. I guess they're hungry for the next meal, depending on where you're at in the world. So I do thank everybody for being with us today and your contributions. And we will get something out between now and next week, so that we'll be able to have some progress to talk about. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This was great.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now.